Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Pop Culture Philosophers. I am Rockin Robbie Billups. It's Friday. That means it's time for the Rex and the Robbie Show. And I just got to say, first of all, station, pop, pop, boom. Tonight, we got a myriad of topics to discuss. Possible casting for Susan Storm, some Deadpool 3 rumors, and we're going to talk a little bit about why two big movies that were really depended on to do well didn't do well. That's Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, and of course, The Flash, which just finally crossed $100 million domestically after weeks at the box office. But of course, you can't have the Rex and the Robbie Show without Robbie. That's me. And of course, without Rex. So let's bring in Rex. By the way, he's the reason why the show's late tonight, but we're not going to blame him or call him out about it or anything. So here's Rex. What's up, man?
That was me. My bad. I'm sorry we're late, people. I had to fix my hair, so, it took a long time.
Still couldn't get it right, so you had to put the hat on anyway, right?
Yeah, I was like, I can't keep him waiting any longer.
Well, before we get into everything, I do want to point out real quick that there is a Humble Bumble going on right now, The Boys versus Project Superpowers, where you can get digitally the entirety of The Boys comic book series, a bunch of Project Superpowers. You get to pick the price, and it goes for a good charity. Also, right now on Kickstarter, Stan Lee's Alliances is available. It's got 6 days left. This is another project from Dynamite, from the mind of Stan Lee. Some great work from Bill Sienkiewicz on that cover right there. So definitely check that out. Links are in the show notes down below. So how you doing, Rex? You had a good week? Did you have a good 4th?
I can't complain. Yeah, well, it was all right. I mean, it was clearly the hottest days in human recorded history. My power went out on the 4th, not once but twice. And then today we come in and our AC in the main section of the office is down. So, yeah, having a lot of technical issues with stuff like that. But other than that, it was okay. I can't complain.
It's the wrong week to be having AC problems. You know what I'm saying?
Not a good time, right? When the power went out at my house, it was one of those, like, went out and then it came back. And you're like, oh, all right, it's cool, right? And then 10 minutes later, it went out. And then I got the text from the power company. And it's like, oh, well, we'll have it up in an hour. And then about 40 minutes in, you get another text. Oh, yeah, no, it's going to be like 3 more hours. It's like, man.
Yeah, that's rough. So is everybody, like, hounding into the conference room and you had to kick everybody out because, like, it's the only place with AC?
What's funny is, yes. But what we've done is, so usually when we do the show, I have the door closed. But today I have it open because we're depending. So you're going to hear the AC in this room cranking the whole time because we're kind of depending on this one to kind of blow out into the main office. And it's kind of working. When I got here, it was 79. It's 78 now. So it's kind of working.
The downward trend is
well, if you go outside and come back in, it feels really cool inside. So I've been doing that a lot.
I saw this thing not too long ago, and it was like recommended, AC settings to like save energy during during the summer, and it was like keep your thermostat set at like 78 degrees. I'm like, you're out your mind. You're out your mind.
I will have to admit, in my house, I set it at 75. That's it. I don't touch it.
75, really?
Yep. I don't touch it, but I will run like fans, which they say really helps. So it's not that bad. And the house has like different hot spots, you know what I'm saying? Depending on how what doors open, whatever. But if I run a couple of fans and keep it at 75, I find I'm really saving a lot of money because I'm not messing with it, like trying to turn it down or, when people turn it up or at night or whatever. But the problem is that if the day's hot enough, the AC's got to catch up.
Yeah.
Right. So if you turn it up to 76, but then you get home, you want it to be 74. Now it's got to run to get those 2 degrees down. So yeah, I've done the last couple of summers since my daughter's moved out of the house. It's not really a problem. It works for me.
I'm with our homie Spilio, man. I keep mine at 70. In fact, actually, sometimes during the summer, I'll wake up and I'll be like, it's cold in my apartment. And then I'll just be like, enjoy this for right now. Because there was a day last week where it was the hottest days of the year so far for us down here in Bama. Our heat index was like almost at 110, right? And my AC was going all day long. And I was like, it's not even hitting 70, man. It was working so hard. I had to move it up a little bit just to get it to turn off, because this is the worst time of the year for the utility bill. You know what I'm saying?
Well, not only that, I mean, you don't necessarily want your compressor to keep running too. I mean, that where's the life of it? But
Well, I live in an apartment, Rex, so it can go out anytime, and
so
I'll
it's
just
not really your headache, but
yeah,
could
exactly.
be if it goes down, they don't come by to fix it immediately. Then it becomes your problem, bro.
Then it,
But what I'm saying, go ahead.
I was going to say the other problem is my downstairs neighbor for the last several years has moved out, so nobody is in the apartment down below, and I don't think they have the AC running. So then it just makes
Oh,
it even
yeah,
worse.
so it's coming up.
Yeah, I need to tell him, like, can you just turn that on for me? Can you just turn it on to a good, nice 68 degrees downstairs, please?
Yeah, not until we get a tenant on, tenant in the building. But it's not only the hottest day of your year, but last few days, different spots in the world have recorded the hottest days in human recorded history. Okay, that says something right there. I mean, that's kind of spooky. So, but hey, what are you gonna do?
Yeah, well, recorded history, and we've only been recording it for so long, but still, that's ridiculous.
That's hot. That's really hot, man.
Yeah, we need to find out how hot it was for the cavemen. They went through some rough times, I'm sure. So let's start our first topic of conversation. So recently we heard the rumor that Adam Driver was being pursued or being asked for Reed Richards in the Fantastic Four movie. We have now heard that he has turned it down, like he's wanting too much money or something like that. But the new rumor this week, and this is just a rumor, not reported by Marvel or anybody like with a lot of like cred, right? But Vanessa Kirby apparently being approached to play Susan Storm in the Fantastic Four movie. Do you have any thoughts on this one, Rex?
She looks really familiar. I don't remember anything really jumps out at me.
You'll mostly remember her probably from the last Mission Impossible movie. She's in the new Mission Impossible movie. She's in Hobbs and Shaw. She played Princess Margaret in The Crown, which I absolutely loved. But that's really my experience with her. She's in tons of other movies, nominated for plenty of awards, Emmys, Academy Awards, I think. But I'm not familiar with any other movie she's in except for those big ones, of course. Hobbs and Shaw and Mission Impossible.
Right. Yeah, now that's why I remember where I saw it from. To be honest, I have no opinion because at this point in time, I don't think that the failure of the other FF movies was due to a casting issue. I really don't. Chris Evans went on to become Captain America. Michael B. Jordan went on to become, everything under the sun.
Creed, Killmonger, right?
Yeah, but not only that, but obviously with the Creed movies, so he's gone on to be a big star. So it wasn't a casting problem, and I don't think it ever was. I like the original cast. I thought that was a good one. Of course, always discounting the Roger Corman one, but that group of four I thought was good. I thought Chris Evans obviously showed his acting chops. He went from Johnny Storm to becoming the crazy wild kid to becoming Steve Rogers, the stand-up, straight as an arrow sort of guy. And it was believable in both instances. So, I don't know her per se. So I'm sure she's a decent actress. I just don't think the problems have been who they've cast. The problems have been screenplay, storyline, whatever you want to call it. But to me, if it does come out, don't screw it up, man. Can you get it done right this time? Because the problem has not been the casting, in my opinion. So Adam Driver, I think he would have made it interesting. Reed Richards, you'll find somebody else. I'm not really concerned about that, in my opinion. So, yeah. So in all honesty, I have no real opinion about that because again, I'm waiting for them not to screw it up.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's not necessarily the cast. Like Jessica Alba was one of the hottest actors of the time when she was cast as Susan Storm. It didn't help the movie. You know what I'm saying? Chris Evans was a little bit of an unknown. Michael Chiklis was a little bit known because of The Shield on FX, right? The cast had nothing to do with that. Well, Julian McMahon was totally miscast as Dr. Doom. We can all agree on that, right? But it's the problem.
Hold up.
Hold on, though, because the problem
was the script.
Well, I think first of all, it was him because he's not Victor, right? But the problem is they didn't write Victor in that script. They did cast the guy to play that corporate Doom, right? So even then, it's the miscasting didn't come from Julian McMahon's performance. It came from the idea that the character was written wrong, right? I think the first problem with that first Fantastic Four movie, not counting the Roger Corman one, we all know the problems with that one, right? They made it for $1 million in 1994. That's the big problem with that one, right? But the problem with the Tony Story ones, right? It's Tony Story is the guy's name, right? So somebody at Fox is like, hey, we got the Fantastic Four thing coming up. We need this to be a huge movie. Who do we get? Do we find somebody who's really good at science fiction? Do we find somebody who's handled one of these big sci-fi epic superhero movies before? No. They go, what was our biggest hit last year? Oh, Barbershop? Let's get that guy. There's nothing. I love Barbershop. There's nothing about that movie that tells me the guy should do a Fantastic Four movie. You know what I'm saying? So, and I think inherently they just have never known what to do with the Fantastic Four. Fox didn't know what to do in those two movies, and they didn't know what to do in the Josh Trank movie. So maybe Marvel has a better idea. We'll see, right?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, McMahon, I don't know. I don't know the actor that well. All right. So given the right script with the right Doctor Doom, could he have carried it off? I don't know. Okay. But again, I agree with you that they had already set that stage and then looked to cast somebody to fit that mold probably makes sense. And obviously we've already discussed this. It was a carbon copy of the Green Goblin. Okay. And the Willem Dafoe, bad guy. The only difference was instead of Spider-Man, we got the FF. And they tried that the Sue Storm romance thing was so stupid. I just didn't see why that needed to happen. There was so much material there that you could have dealt with. So I don't know. But again, it seems almost a little bit like it's cursed.
Yeah. Ariaga, I won't say that you're the only one that likes those two Fantastic Four movies. To be honest with you, there are things I like about every Fantastic Four movie that I've ever seen, including the Roger Corman one. In fact, I think the Roger Corman one got Dr. Doom 100% right. Problem is they couldn't get a microphone in that mask, so he's just talking like this the whole time, and it just doesn't make sense. The Thing costume actually works for the budget, for the effects of its time. The Human Torch stuff is way off, right? But like even in the Tony Story ones, like I really like Ben and Johnny in the first one. I actually like Reed and Sue in the second one. I love the Silver Surfer. I love how they approached that. I think he looked amazing. Doom is better in the second one because he's more like Doom. And in the Josh Trank one, I like that hard sci-fi body horror approach they were going with, but it's really solid for about an hour. Then it just all of a sudden tries to become a clone of the third act of the Avengers, and it just turns to absolute crap, in my opinion. But I don't know. That's me. Have you liked any of those Fantastic Four movies at all, Rex?
Well, yeah, you know what? I agree with Ariaga. The first two, it wasn't like I hated it. We've been waiting a long time for it. We all remember Corman, so no matter what, it was going to be better. I liked the cast quite a bit. So it was good as John Cole puts it, popcorn movies. You know what I mean? So I enjoyed watching it. I'm glad I watched it. But looking back, you obviously see there's a lot they could have done that they didn't do. And after years and years of being able to dissect it, we're able to see like, yeah, you shouldn't have done that. You should have done that. You should have done that. So they didn't really go there. And they were trying to keep it, I don't know how to put it. The first two was almost a little bit milk toasty, just kind of, we want everybody to come watch it. We want to appeal to everybody. And whenever you do that, when you try to appeal to everybody, you invariably piss somebody a good chunk off because you really can't please everybody. And then I felt like the third one was again, I don't think it was an issue of cast, but then you tried to go from what they did to something where we don't care what the people think. We have our own vision and this is what we're going to do. So you went from trying to please everybody to I don't care if we please anybody kind of thing. And that invariably made everybody pissed off. And the movie was a horrific failure. And then the infighting that happened during production doesn't help. All right. But
one carryover from that, though, that I would not mind seeing is, especially after seeing Top Gun Maverick, I would love to see Miles Teller get another shot at Reed Richards because I think he could do it. I really, really do. I really do, man.
I gotta tell you, I don't see it. I don't. Maybe it's because we've been tainted.
Yeah.
I don't know. He didn't seem. I don't know. The character they wrote for him, the Reed Richards they wrote for him, seemed a little whiny.
Well, he was definitely
Well,
based more on the ultimate Fantastic Four, right? The ultimate Reed a little bit. I just liked him. I liked his look. I liked the vibe of it. Like guy who played him in the story movies. What was it? Ian Gronfeld or something like that? Like I mean, he was all right,
yeah,
but
I
then
love the actor. I
yeah,
love
he's
Miles
I
Teller.
mean, he's fine, but then he has to do stupid stuff like that dance scene in the club in part 2. It's so dumb, you know what I'm saying?
It's just Reed's supposed to be stoic, and they didn't write him to be stoic in that movie. And,
Okay.
and I think that was a problem. He seemed a little too whiny. I always saw Reed Richards as being kind of like Spock. Leaning a little too much to the logical end and using it to kind of cover emotion in a way.
Yeah.
And it didn't come across that way. And I don't blame Miles Teller. Again, I like the actor quite a bit. So I think it was a poor script, a lot of infighting during production. And at that point, it's doomed. I mean, we were reading stories before it even came out about how the infighting and all that. And that kind of, if that story comes out before the release, you almost guarantee the box office is going to suck.
Yeah.
Maybe they thought it would generate interest and people would go and see it because all this infighting. Yeah, that didn't work.
So we know that Fox has never really nailed the Fantastic Four, but they have had varying degrees of success with the X-Men franchise. And I think that some of the best movies that Fox has done as far as their Marvel properties have been those 2 Deadpool movies. And I am not the hugest Deadpool fan, but I love those 2 movies. The second one's really fun to me, but the first one actually has a core of like a human story and it's got heart to it. And I feel for Wade Wilson and his love story, and it just blows my mind that these words are even coming out of my mouth. So I'm very excited for Deadpool 3, which has been moved up in the schedule. It's scheduled now to come out in May of next year because it's actively being shot right now. The script is done. They don't have to wait for the writer's strike or anything like that. So they're counting on this being, because there's always a big summer comic book movie that comes out the beginning of May, right around Free Comic Book Day. It looks like it's going to be Deadpool 3 this year. And we know we got Hugh Jackman coming back as Wolverine. We'll get to that in a minute. But rumors that Channing Tatum has filmed a cameo in the film as Gambit. Any thoughts, Rex? And you out there in the chat, what do y'all think?
I think that the Deadpool movies were, first of all, they cast it well, obviously, and then wrote the character to kind of fit the cast. And it had, I agree with you, it had the right mixture of, especially the first one, the love story, the tragedy, almost Shakespearean tragedy in a sense, the comedy, the blind neighbor. It was just the right mixture of comedy and tragedy and action and everything else, and that was phenomenal. I think that Hugh Jackman coming back or making an appearance as Wolverine, it's going to work great. I think the cameo is going to work great. It's just, you've got a franchise that works. It really, really works. Unlike a Thor: Love and Thunder, where let's try that Deadpool antic. That didn't work. Did not work. Not even close. But for Deadpool, it works. I don't know why. A good script, well cast. Enough comedy, enough tragedy. It's almost a tragic comedy, if you will. So I think it's going to be big. I really do. And it doesn't depend on, I don't know. They have their cameos. You had Colossus in there. You had all that. But they didn't, it was more like cameos. You weren't depending on it for an expanded universe. So it felt like a self-contained kind of story. You can take it out into the MCU or you can hold it here. It can survive either way. And I think that's the magic. And I think that's why it is kind of done, has kind of stood out. Because everything else that they put out, I got to be honest, has felt a little cookie cutter, right?
Yeah. What's really crazy is that, you mentioned perfect casting, and Ryan Reynolds, the absolute perfect actor to play Wade Wilson, to play Deadpool, right? They cast him in X-Men Origins. and they shit all over that character. Like they just like they don't understand anything about why people like Deadpool in that movie. And then you rarely now we've seen second chances in comic book movies like Chris Evans is Human Torch and some movies that don't really carry over too well. Then he's able to really sink his teeth into Captain America. We've seen this before. Ryan Reynolds, though, we've never seen somebody get cast his character, them completely ruin it, and then go, okay, let's try it again with the same person and actually allow it to happen the way it should, right? Ryan Reynolds is a perfect Deadpool, like 100%. The one thing that worries me about Deadpool 3 is Ryan Reynolds is not allowed to ad-lib on set as a part, because he's a writer, he's part of the Writers Guild, so he can't actually create any new dialogue while they're in the writer's strike, which is still going on, right? So, like, I wish they could, like, wrap that up pretty quickly, because we're going to hit, you remember the last time we had an extended writer's strike, it really wrecked a lot of TV shows and movies, right? Channing Tatum, for those that don't remember this, Channing Tatum was going to play Gambit in a solo Gambit movie, right? And it never happened, and a lot of people were on board for it. So the fact that he's coming in to do a cameo, it's allowing this actor one opportunity to come in and just do a little bit of fan service. It'd be cool to see what Channing Tatum's Gambit would look like, right? They recently did this in the Flash movie. It's been out long enough. I think it's made all the money it's going to make, Rex. We'll get to that later. But I will spoil something small about the Flash, right? So here's a spoiler. Nobody wants to hear it. Just drop out for a second. They have Nicolas Cage as Superman in that movie, fighting a giant spider. And we all know the story about the Nicolas Cage Superman movie by Tim Burton that never happened. But in this movie, you get to see Nicolas Cage as Superman. It kind of reminds me of that. And I think Deadpool 3 has the potential to be that kind of like capstone to the Fox Marvel Cinematic Universe, if you want to call it that they wanted Flash to be for all of DC film. And to be able to throw in these cameos, have Hugh Jackman come back as Wolverine. And, I thought that the strength of Michael Keaton coming back as Batman alone would be enough for the Flash, but there was so much going on with that movie, with Ezra, with just the DCEU's just downward trend. It just was doomed for failure. Deadpool 3, though, a lot of people are going to go see this, and the biggest thing I'm excited for with Channing Tatum is, what's his accent going to be like? Because I've never thought of Channing as, like, the greatest actor out there, and I don't think I've ever seen him.
Accent.
I don't think I've ever seen him do like an accent. I know he's a Southern boy, but like there's a difference between Southern and Creole Cajun. You know what I'm saying? So I'm interested to see what he's gonna sound like, man. What do you think?
I don't know. I mean, I've never heard him do an accent either. It's kind of like Nicolas Cage doing an accent. I've never heard him. Nicolas Cage. Every character he's played, he just played Nicolas Cage in that role. Okay, it's always Nicolas Cage though. I don't know. I'm less concerned about the cameos because, and I see what who was it that said it? Josh Went. I understand what you're saying, but to a certain degree, I believe that that's the magic of Deadpool. The best DC comparison I can make to it is probably Peacemaker. Both Peacemaker and Deadpool, they found that magic combination. Enough humor and sarcasm, and then a bit of the tragedy involved in it. The drama of it. But they found a right kind of mixture. So you walk away from it, not only you interested, but you walk away with it with a chuckle. You're laughing at it. And I think that that's what's missing. Because what we've seen recently from MCU, from DC, whatever, they haven't found that right mixture. They either lean too far to humor, like Thor, Love and Thunder, okay, and you ruined it, or you try to lean too far to the dramatic. All right, The Flash, although I have not seen it, and I'm not rushing out, obviously, but to me, that became just, it is such a hot mess. Let's just throw cameo after cameo after cameo in there and see what sticks. So now you've taken cameos are kind of cool, but now you kind of feel like they've gone over the top with them. And now, so cameos got to work. Or, just like Thor, Love and Thunder. Oh, comedy works, so let's go that way. And in this case, cameos. People love cameos, so let's just keep throwing cameos at it. More does not always mean better. And I think that that's been the problem. So I think Deadpool's going to be great. With The Flash, it just felt like, it had been a mess. We waited years for it. It changed direction so many times, and then Ezra Miller didn't help. And you can see as soon as any kind of legal kind of movies out, movie has not succeeded. All the legal kind of things that he was under have been lifted, and of course, what is he doing? First thing out of his mouth, individuals are manipulating and blah 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 blah. So it's not going to get any better. We all know that. It's just going to get worse. So I don't know. I'm very optimistic about Deadpool because they found a right way to do it. They found a good, mixture, the sarcasm, the humor. It's well cast. So all of those things are working together right now. And also, to answer Josh one's question, to a certain degree, the Colossus and the other ones that they kind of make comedies of, there was a limit, I believe, due to licensing issues of what they could use them for. So it wasn't like, Colossus turned out to be all CGI, right? They couldn't put a real face. You never saw him as a human in Deadpool, right? He was always in the adamantium skin. So I remember there was a limitation of what they could use or how they could use it, whatever the case may be. And based on those limitations, they made the most of it.
Well, I definitely think they used Colossus more than they did in the previous X-Men movies. Those were just cameos. Like you see him in the first one drawing at the pool. Then you see him in the second one. He armors up, just does one little thing. He's a little bit in the third one, but at least you got a little bit more Colossus. I actually think they handled that pretty well. And I loved Josh Brolin as Cable. I would have liked to have seen a Cable movie, but Cable and Deadpool, the way they work together, Rob Liefeld created both of those characters. Fabian Nicieza helped really develop those characters and that relationship, right, by being the writer on X-Force. And then eventually Cable Deadpool. I really think it worked, man. I think it worked so well. And I am not a Deadpool fan. And I'm really pumped for Deadpool 3. I'm excited to see Channing Tatum. And yes, Ariaga, I do have a crush on the entire cast of Magic Mike, including the director, Steven Soderbergh, who's one of my favorite directors out there. Continuing the Deadpool 3 talk. Rumor that Hugh Jackman will be putting on the yellow and blue Wolverine costume for the first time in this film. Are you excited about that? Is it something you've always wanted to see?
Yeah, that's kind of cool. That's kind of like your Michael Keaton cameo as Batman, I feel like. It's that kind of moment. So that's a good move. All right. Whereas the Flash, they were hoping that the Michael Keaton, let's put more Michael Keaton because everybody loves Michael Keaton. And we do. But more Michael Keaton was not saving your movie, as is clearly demonstrated. But Hugh Jackman in the yellow and blue costume, that's different. We've never seen it. You're going to give the fans a little something. But the key is it's not a cameo of Hugh Jackman in the suit. It's Hugh Jackman, and the fact that he and Ryan Reynolds, as we know, have that banter relationship with each other long before this came to pass. So we also know between the two actors, there's a kind of a synergy connection, if you will, whatever, right? So that'll be really cool as well. So I think it's going to work well. But let me see what. And did shit. Yeah, I can't disagree with Patrick King.
Well, a lot has changed, right? So Patrick's had a point, but when the first X-Men movie came out, 2000, there's even the line when James Marsters is Cyclops, who also is in the Deadpool movie, by the way. So that's going to be really cool. It feels like this is going to be the capstone to the Fox X-Men verse, right? And in that first one, comic book movies were new. Spider-Man hadn't even come out yet. The Blade was the only one that had really made any kind of movement, right? And they're looking at movies what are the biggest sci-fi movies in this genre? They're thinking of The Matrix. So yeah, they're putting them in more Matrix inspired suits and stuff, but it starts changing even in the X-Men movies when they do start veering more into traditional comic book costumes. But we've never gotten Wolverine with the mask. And I'll tell you what, man, I kind of do agree that if they would have done that in the year 2000, Rex, it would have looked stupid. You would have put Hugh Jackman in that costume. It would have been so dumb. But they know how to do it now. And I think now it will look really cool.
I think obviously when the X-Men came out and the first few movies, there were a lot of things going on. As you say, there wasn't a lot for us to absorb. There wasn't a lot for us to consume out there. They had started rolling out. So it's not the same. Not only that, I think that there was still that starved appetite for superhero movies at that point. And the X-Men clearly, it was the right time, right place. The right demographic had grown up with the Claremont Burns X-Men. So it was
in the animated series in the 90s too, right? So you got like 20 years of X-Men dominance.
So now you're finally put that live action together. I thought it was well cast. Again, you have Patrick Stewart coming off his success off of Star Trek Next Gen. You clearly had Hugh Jackman, who just kind of fell into the role. I remember the first movie. I thought, he's way too tall, dude. How can a tall guy be Wolverine? He's way too tall. It's like that first Cage match. I think he's taller than his opponent, or at least the same height, right? So, but after a while, you didn't really notice. It was a well-cast movie for a franchise that was already very popular. So it was there. But you saw that the new batch, okay, the new X-Men, it didn't work as well. The reason was, okay, we got what we needed. Now you got to really write something, bro. You got to really, bring us into it. And they didn't really, I don't feel like. Not that I had a problem with Rogue, but I always felt like there was a little too much focus on that character. You had so many other characters you could have drawn from. And we've already done the Rogue thing, sort of. So why are we going back to that? It just felt like they were kind of living off yesterday's success, in a sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of X-Men 1 and 2, and I do like Days of Future Past, and then I love First Class. Like, I adore First Class. I think First Class is one of the best X-Men movies they've ever made, even though it only has Wolverine in like one little brief cameo, because they're telling me a good story. The most compelling thing to me about the X-Men is the whole friendship and then anti-friendship between Eric and Charles, right? And they really...
I'm sorry to interrupt you. I didn't mean Rogue. I meant Mystique. Sorry about that, guys. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah, that makes more sense, because the Rogue was in that first movie.
Was the first movie, yeah.
Yeah, she was like Jubilee. She was like Kitty Pryde. She's like our entry into this world. But yeah. It's because everybody loved the fact that they cast Rebecca Romijn as Mystique, and she's just in blue body paint, nude. Everybody loved that. So then they're like, let's push this Mystique story further, which is always weird to me, even in First Class.
I didn't really feel like I just felt like you had so many characters you could be focusing on. Why go back to this one?
Yeah.
Expand the relationship between her and Magneto and Professor X. I just I'm like, okay, why do it this way? Didn't make much sense to me.
It's going to be interesting to see what Hugh Jackman looks like in the costume with the fins on the mask and everything. It's going to be cool to see, actually.
And I'm sure there'll be a witty response from Ryan Reynolds. It's going to be funny. I just think that they have the right combination there. And
I hope he looks at the camera and goes, "What did you expect? Black leather?" Like,
it's just that satire is I think the magic, and obviously Ryan Reynolds to be the guy to deliver the satire is perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, that's him. In all his movies, that's what he's really great at.
See a lot of love for First Class out there. That's really cool. I love First Class. I think it's really good. The ending of that film is really
it was a good change, but then the jump, it didn't happen.
Yeah.
That was the problem. It stalled after that. Right there, it was like, ugh, are you kidding me?
Well, then they did Days of Future Past, and that was successful, right? But then they did Apocalypse and Dark Phoenix. And Dark Phoenix is just the worst, man.
I just watched again Days of Future Past, and that was a good movie, but mainly because the story arc from the comics was a good one.
Yeah.
That was what really made it work. But then again, that was an interlude. It just the rest of it really didn't work. I don't know why.
All right, so moving on. One of our favorite subjects here this year has been talking about The Flash. The Flash has been out for over 3 weeks now, and it has finally crossed $100 million domestically, which they were hoping to do week 1. So that means that officially, this is one of the biggest flops in superhero movie history, because this movie cost so much to make. And then when you add in the reshoots and you add in because remember, originally it was supposed to all tie into that Batgirl movie that got shelved, right? They got deleted off of the computer apparently, right? And then with all the reshoots, with all the delays, with all the promotion, this movie cost upwards of $600 million. And yeah, it's going to be one of the biggest flops in superhero movie history. What's the lesson to learn here, Rex?
The lesson to learn is, number one, I read another article about Zaslav, and he is pretty much hated within the industry. He doesn't feel, some of the things, and this came from an article I read. This is not what I'm saying, but it is what I'm saying because I'm not a fan, as you know. But the overwhelming opinion of the guy is he doesn't really care about the product. He doesn't really care about the audience. What he cares about is making a dime, a dollar at the end of the day. And he doesn't care about the integrity or the preservation of it. He is a bottom line sort of guy. And in typical fashion through the years with DC, with all the changes that they held, okay, and you know what I think. All right, you merge Warner Brothers and Discovery, and you take the Discovery guy and you put him as CEO of the whole thing. The reality channel, that makes sense. All right, and I know you've gone to an extent to defend the guy, but the article I read, wherever he was, that's how he acted. And although you can't put all the blame on him because this was well under motion before he got there, but he kind of sank that boat. And his demonstration that I don't really care about you, the audience, became very apparent when he shelved Batgirl. And I don't care what anybody says. You have enough of a groundswell. All right, but you shelved it to take the write-off. Didn't shelve it for the Flash, even though every bit of writing on the wall says, dude, this is not going to be good. You got your lead going nutso here, being accused of this and the cult and everything else. This is not good PR for the film. But you're going to stick with him, but you're going to shelve Batgirl. That alone, that action, whether you thought Batgirl should have been shelved, shouldn't have been shelved, that ain't a good look. I'm sorry. Okay? All right, the cast is pushing back. The production company is pushing back. Directors are pushing back. Like, what, are you kidding me? We worked so hard on this, blah, blah, blah. Okay? And he said, no, but it just wasn't done. It wasn't acceptable. We're going to take the write-off and we're going to shelve it. But you're going to push all the marketing money behind a movie that is already in big trouble, but delayed so many times, a lead that maybe you didn't choose, but your quote-unquote executive chose, all right? And not without controversy. Obviously, there is the Grant Gustin people that felt like he should have gotten the role, which in hindsight probably seemed like it would have been a much better idea. He couldn't have done worse, could he? And you did all this, and you forced this movie through. And it is a disaster, which any layman, uneducated, not in the business, could have told you that was coming. And you jam that through and spend even more money trying to jam it through with your reshoots and whatever. And now you throw your hands up like, whoa, it didn't make any money? What? It's the worst flop in superhero movie history? What? You and I were talking about it a month ago before it was released. You and I were talking about it right about the time that Gunn and Safran was named to be the Kevin Feige of the DCU. We were talking about it. You and I were sitting there talking about the Batgirl being shelved and how I don't see, remember? We all argued. You were the first one, as the quote unquote reporter of the show. You were reporting that they said that they tested really well, that the audience went out and they really loved it. Apparently,
I was behind it, Rex. I remember I declared that it would make $1 billion.
Apparently, that was not the case. Okay, at all. Okay, and now Snake. But now that we know a little bit more about Zaslav, okay, I can almost see why Batgirl was shelved. In his mind, doesn't care about you, the audience, doesn't care about you, the fans. But they shelved it because clearly what they were going to do, well, we don't want the Michael Keaton cameo coming out in Batgirl, man. Let's load it all up onto the Flash. Then they'll come out and they'll give us their money, man, because we'll just have Michael Keaton in every other shot. They'll give us the money. Trust me. What about the script? Who cares about the script? They're here to see Michael Keaton. It feels like that, didn't it? And I didn't even see the movie, but I've been reading enough of the articles. You have seen the movie. It feels a little bit like that, doesn't it?
Maybe a little bit. I do like the Flash movie. I think it's solid. It's got some issues, but for the most part, I did enjoy it. And I think more people will. I think more people will be able to, well, when it drops on Max, more people will be able to check it out and have fun with it. But I think the reason why the Flash has failed is because of a whole bunch of things, and it's just for the most part. I think the number one reason is if you just look at the DCEU films, they don't do so well, and they've been downward trending ever since. And I think it's just a distrust in the brand, and I think that's why the reboot is the most important thing that they can do right now. So
I would completely agree with that.
And they got another one because Aquaman 2 is going to flop too, y'all. Especially because the first one made over $1 billion. The only DC movie to do that outside of the Joker. So like, it ain't going to make $1 billion. You know what I'm saying?
No,
and
then I think it'll do okay. I think it'll do okay, mainly because Momoa was a draw. The original movie was a draw. Okay, so if they don't screw the script up, I think it'll do okay. I don't think it's no way it's going to beat the first one, not even close. But compared to what they've been churning out, so Ariaga, I'm not saying it wasn't. When it starts to stream, it'll probably be a movie that I'll sit there. It's a good popcorn movie, and I'll watch and enjoy it. But at the end of the day, that's a completely different topic than I think what we're really discussing. Yeah. It's the movie was destined to fail for many years now, and there's no way you could have gotten around that problem. And at that point in time, I don't really know what to do with it.
Another
movie was huge.
Another movie that I enjoyed, right? That I liked. Didn't think it was the greatest thing, but a movie I enjoyed that is also struggling at the box office is Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. Now, you have not seen this one still yet, right?
I have not. And overall, I think it'll do okay. All right. But I think that and we talked about this with The Flash, I think that is tied to the concept of box office summer smash. Okay. Think about it. We're in a lot of ways, and I'm sorry, but the movie theaters, the whole structure is going to have to change, whether we want to admit it or not. Okay, that's the unfortunate part. We're still using the same business models, summer blockbuster, that we did in the 1970s. Well, keep in mind, in the 1970s, and this may seem very basic, but in the 1970s, not everybody had central air, people. I remember huddled in one room in our house because that was the one with the window unit AC. So what did we go and see movies for? They had air conditioning. So we go see the movies, and you couldn't see them anywhere else.
I bring up one.
No, you may not.
Thing really quick.
Sorry,
I have been.
Hi, Amy.
Hi, Robbie. Sorry, I wasn't here the whole show. I was working on stuff, but.
Oh, are you saying that I'm not? Are you implying that I'm not working?
I have to help Nick get ready for our show tonight, so I'm making sure all that stuff's ready. But
well, when you're bringing up, go ahead.
When we're bringing up this summer in particular, so many movies are coming out this year. I can't tell you how many times I've been to the theater, but then there's still things I haven't seen yet. And I know, and this is partially because of COVID, because like the past couple years, not as many movies have been able to come to theaters, but now everything's coming to theaters that people have to pick and choose. So not every movie's going to make as much money as it usually would have, because if we have a blockbuster every week, it's like, again, it's nothing that people can't. Again, people got to pick and choose. They can't afford to go to the movie theater every single week.
Robbie,
so
you and I have talked about this too. Okay, I agree with what Amy's saying, but ultimately,
it's an overload.
Ultimately, though, the model's shifting. All right, so I gave you the reason why we went to a lot of movies in the summer in the 70s. We're trying to escape the heat and entertain ourselves for a couple hours, right? Nowadays, there are so many other activities you could do. All right, yeah, as a kid, we play outside. All right, whatever it is, stick ball, whatever. Okay, but it was still hot. Now, what can I do in summer? Well, I can go to Top Golf and stand in my little air-conditioned unit and then, drive balls, all day long and have a beer and some food and a burger and chips and whatever, right? There's so many more options for my time now to escape the heat. So the movie theaters, and you and I touched on this, you got to add something else, man. If you're going to draw those people in, because I know I will watch The Flash when it's streaming. I know I'll watch all these things when it's streaming. So now Amy likes, and you do, and certainly John does, you like the movie theater experience. That's great. But those aren't the ones they need. All right. And would they drag somebody like me in? It would take an extreme, but maybe. But it's the middle of the road. People who like going to the movies, but they don't have to see it at the movie theater. You know what I'm saying? You need that middle of the road. And how are you going to drag them in?
Yeah, but there are movies, Rex. There are movies, though, this year that have done very well financially. Now, like you said, maybe we need to redefine what success means. And what I think box office results still tell us a lot. Doesn't tell us the full story. Ant-Man 3 had the biggest opening weekend of any Ant-Man movie. But then it had one of the biggest drop-offs of MCU, right? And it seems like most people don't really get behind that film. John Wick 4, very successful. Across the Spider-Verse, very successful, which I finally saw this last weekend, and it was still a packed theater. We're talking like over a month into its release, it was still a packed theater. Spider-Verse, these movies exist. Super Mario made $1 billion. You just wait to see how many people go see Barbie in a couple weeks. Dead Reckoning is going to smash Mission Impossible records too, because like it's got good word of mouth coming out. 97% on Rotten Tomatoes right now. Not that we care about that, but people still go to the movies. These movies can be big, but in a movie summer with Across the Spider-Verse, Indiana Jones, Guardians of the Galaxy, Barbie, Oppenheimer, The Flash doesn't stand out amongst those, especially seeing the track record.
But let me ask you a question. The ones that have been quote unquote a financial success, it also depends on how much you spend making it and marketing it. But think about it. You talked about Barbie. You talked about John Wick 4. What was the other ones you mentioned?
Across the Spider-Verse, Guardians,
Spider-Verse,
Mario. But the other thing is too, this like John Wick. All 4 John Wick films cost less to make than the new Indiana Jones film. So when you got Indiana Jones that cost $350 million to make, and you only make 70 on your opening weekend, yeah, you're going to be disappointed. But if the new Jennifer Lawrence movie made that, they would be ecstatic. You know, if John Wick opened to that, like, and they were ecstatic because the movies cost less. Maybe there's a way to make these movies cheaper. I don't know. Like maybe you don't need to spend $300 to $600 million on a movie. Maybe it's not reliable to do that anymore. So
I don't disagree, but ultimately you still have a smaller amount of movies that are making money, and that bundle is shrinking every day. So what I'm saying is that, and the problem has been is the studios, the movie theaters, they're still trying to push that model. And I'm telling you, the model is a model that we've had since the 1970s. And nobody wants to let go of it. I get that. The studios don't, the movie theaters sure as heck don't, because the only reality is the number of movie theaters overall has to fall. There isn't the demand for it. So ultimately, supply has got to shrink. And I believe you've got to add something. There has to be something there, okay, whatever it may be. And I guess the best example I can give it is years and years ago, there was a independent affiliate, a minor league baseball team out of in New Jersey, out of a city called Camden. They were called Camden River Sharks. And I knew the GM actually for many years. And, you know, I would take my daughter there all the time. It was great. You know, it was $7 parking. Didn't know any of the players because they were all trying to get into the bigs, right? So, you know, they're moving, they're shifting. You know, every week could be a whole different set of different roster. But I remember talking to him, and I said, well, you know, literally it's right across the bridge from Citizens Bank where the Phils play. And I go, well, how do you do this so close to Philly and Phils? And he said to me, he says, I'm not competing with the Phillies, bro. He goes, that's crazy. You know what I'm competing with? I'm competing with you taking your family to the movie theaters that night. I'm trying to get you to come to the ballpark and watch us play instead of going to the movie theater. And what he did to do that, very imaginative. Fireworks every Friday night, every Saturday night, games. Period, end story. There were fireworks. Okay, there was a rock wall for kids. There was a playground for kids. Okay. The mascot was really working in between innings, man. The guy was, I'm looking at that guy doing, geez, he's a he's an Olympic gymnast, this guy. All right. um, uh, beer specials, $5 beer specials, $1 dog night, lots of different activities for kids, walking around the stadium. It was fun. It was a night out. Not, clearly the ball game was going on and I'd watch it, but it was an affordable, suites where you could have birthday parties and stuff. And it doesn't cost you an arm and a leg. You, as movie theaters, you've got to give us something more. Just sitting our butts in the seat and watching a movie, it's not going to be enough anymore. Okay? Because
well, remember, Rex, last week you just found out that some theaters serve beer. So, like, I'm just saying, like,
yes,
you just found that out.
But I gotta be honest with you. Okay, I'll give you another really smart thing they did.
Would you like fireworks Friday at the theater? Like they just launched fireworks in the theater after the movie? Would you be down for that?
You know what I'm saying. Look, so the River Sharks also had local microbrews that set up there, and they had their own kiosks. So yeah, there was a premium. So I could get a $5 like Budweiser can of Budweiser or whatever. All right, but if I wanted to go one of these microbrews, I'd be paying like $8, right? But it was good beer, and for your I got a buddy, I like to call him a beer snob. He goes to these breweries and stuff. He won't drink regular beer like Corona, but if you're into that, there's something there for you as well. You've got to make it an experience for the family. So I don't know what it is, because I'm not really their target market. But if you're depending on people like an Amy or John Cole who are going to be there, well, they're an exception. They're not the norm. So if you're going to survive, you need about tens of thousands of Amy's and Johns in the region alone. But without that, and hoping that we're going to revert back to 1970s, come on, that's not realistic at all. And streaming is here to stay, so you better find a way to profit off of that.
So, Amy, we haven't talked in a week, right? And have you seen Indiana Jones yet?
I have.
I am curious what you thought about it.
I enjoyed it very much. I understand, like, even if a couple things here and there, maybe not quite perfect, but overall, I liked the emotional story that was being told, and I was very happy with how it ended.
I was too. I really I think Mads Mikkelsen was a great villain. He's basically playing Werner von Braun, who came to Huntsville to build the rockets, right? And I love the bit too when Mads Mikkelsen's like, "I'm not going back to Alabama," and I was like, "Dude, I feel so seen." I loved it. I thought it was a fine movie. I thought it was a little overly long, but the other thing is like,
in this animal, I think that too.
Yeah, in this culture that we're in right now, right? So many people had already decided that they hated this indie movie way before it ever dropped, And it's just a weird culture we live in where people are making their minds up about movies before they even release. And yeah, I don't think it's better than the first 3 Indiana Jones movies, but I will say it's the 4th best Indiana Jones movie, in my opinion. But I don't know. I liked it. And I did see Spider-Verse, and I think it's the best movie I've seen all year. That movie rocks. That movie is amazing. Like, holy cow.
Like, it's best picture worthy.
Yes. Like, not just best animated picture, but best picture worthy. You're 100% right about that.
So,
go see it, Rex.
I want to respond to what Josh wanted to say. Yeah, but Josh, the reason is mainly because, the studios are part of the problem, honestly, because they're asking for too much. All right. But for years and years, they've been trying to fill that profit margin with concessions. And now it's become so ridiculous that even those that are going to movie theaters are probably avoiding concessions because of the price. Okay. Yeah, I want to see the movie. I want to see it in the movie theater, but let's make sure we eat, so we don't have to buy anything. So that's to me kind of the problem. And I agree, the business model's got to change, but in order to change, spend more money. Yeah. Unfortunately, if you hold on with this model, eventually you're going to be out of business anyway. So, the fact that you're barely making money should be sending loud red flags to you. Like, man, there's something wrong with this business model. So you got to give me some reason, the same reason I have to go to the ballpark. If I get some tickets, free tickets, not really free, is it? I got $20 in park and I got concessions. I took my nephew. He needs a foam finger. He needs the batting helmet, the ice cream batting helmet souvenir. He needs a commemorative soda cup. By the time you're all, I'm pretty sure my free tickets cost me a couple $100 by the time the game was over. But it was a great time. It was fun. All right. Could I have watched the Phils better on TV? Absolutely, dude. Okay. Replays. I can see it from 20 different angles. One shot into the left center gap. What am I looking at? I'm looking at this little tiny white thing that I can barely see, and players about this big. But it's the entire experience, being in the ballpark, okay, with the big foam finger, okay. I'm not saying that movie theaters can necessarily do that, but somehow they've got to go back to whatever secret mumbo jumbo formula you had during the Rocky Horror Picture Show, and look back at that period of time and see whatever it was that became an experience. People showed up dressed up. You got repeats, okay? People would go. It became an event. All right, I'm not saying that you can cookie cutter that into something today, but they had something there. People were spending money, and they were spending money to go to a film that they had seen multiple times because of the entire experience. It was a weird experience, but it was an experience, and that's why people went. And I'm not saying that exact experience, but that is where they need to be at going forward. Okay, big comfy seats, that's great, but it's not gonna do the trick. I got big comfy seats in my house. Okay. Oh, it's got the big screen. Clearly I need to buy a bigger TV, which HD, right? You have to adapt to the changes, and that's why I feel like the movie industry really hasn't done. Their biggest change in all the years since the 70s. Well, we're gonna clean up the floor so it's not sticky with soda. And we're gonna put nice, luxurious Barco loungers in the theater. That's really it. That's all they've changed since the 1970s, if you think about it. What else have they done? They tried, experimented with limited success here and there. But other than that, how have they changed their formula? They haven't. Overpriced popcorn, overpriced soda, candy. Okay, well, let's put some more stuff on the menu, like hot dogs and stuff like that. Also overpriced.
Marvel makes a little extra money on the big premiere weekends. They have like a special bucket and cup for the movie, like the little character on it. Robbie, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I have my Scream 6 cup still, so I'm very excited for that.
Yeah. I can buy
I got when Guardians came out, I got it's a nice metal tin, and then like the special cup with a little rocket on it.
Dude, they used to give away like what they used to call
but hey, you get to keep it, so
11 by 14s. They used to call them. Oh my gosh, I'm getting old. They used to have pictures of the movies, screenshots. Okay, lobby cards.
Lobby cards. Yeah.
To show you scenes from the movie, right? And they used to give out free lobby cards. So the idea of a promotional thing is not new. And now
these ones we have to pay for. These ones we have to pay for, and they can be pretty expensive. Like with Fast X, there was. I wanted it so bad, but with Fast X, there was like you could get Dom's Dodge Charger, right? Like with as a popcorn holder or something like that. But it was like $30. There was an Optimus Prime.
They're merching it up. So to a certain degree, turns off the public, because we're not dumb. We know. So you're trying to show us you're trying to sell me a cardboard box in the shape of Dom's car, and you're trying to jack me $30 for it. There's I
didn't buy it, Rex. I didn't buy it, but I did buy the screen cup.
But you know what I'm saying.
I got my little Ghostface figure.
Right, but you know what I'm saying. A certain segment of the population that goes to watch this movie, they're getting that feeling. Like, man, you guys are outrageous. That's off the rails.
Yeah.
You can charge me $30 for a cardboard holder?
Oh, it's plastic. It's plastic, Rex. It's nice. I think the wheels even move.
My God, man. Yeah, oh, cool. Yeah, but you know what I'm saying? It turns certain people off. It's become so naked. So I'm telling you, they need to change the business model. They haven't done anything significant since the 1970s. If you really think about it, nothing has changed. They've dressed it up. But you put lipstick on a pig, it's still bacon, bro. Okay? And that's all they've done. It's really all they've done. And they're slapping their fists. We're losing money. We're dying. Now, agreed, the pandemic accelerated all this. Okay, but they're slamming. It's not fair. We're dying. We're going out of business. We're going bankrupt. Dude, you haven't changed your business model since the 1970s. What do you think was going to happen? Last forever? Okay, you didn't move. You didn't change, and the world changed around you. Now you're screwed. Now you're backed up in a corner. Okay. As I forget, somebody said, what, spend even more money? Yeah, the time to spend money is long since passed, bro. You know, you're sinking right now.
Well,
Should have thought of that.
I was going to say
that in the 90s, maybe.
Another week, another Rex and Robbie show, and I think we're even closer to solving the problems with the movie studios and the movie theaters, Rex. I really think so. We're going to figure this out by the end of the year, you know? So, yeah. All right, everybody, let me know what you think about any of the topics of conversation. If you're watching this on the replay, in the comments below. Thank you all so much for being here in the live chat. Rex, what's coming up for y'all?
All right, so Nick will be back tonight at 7 p.m. On the Experience for the original art show. Tons and tons, just like last week, tons and tons of original art. Everywhere from very, very inexpensive pieces like $100 or lower or something like that.
Oh, yeah, we got some nice picks tonight.
Yeah, and then ones that you know, original cover art that's going to be, you know, on the high end, but something for everybody if you collect original art. If you don't, heck, just watch and see how your favorite comics come to life, if you will. Other than that, you and I will be back on Monday for our normal 7 to 9 on the XP Comic Collectables, all Eastern time. I don't know if John will be here or not. I have not gotten his weekly vacation update, but I'm sure I'll hear over the weekend, so we'll find out. And then Wednesday, of course, we go to our new summer hours from 7 to 8 Eastern on the Experience for Comic Collectables. What about you, man? What you got going on?
Well, you can join me tomorrow night on Dylan's Horror Show, where we're talking about one of my favorite horror movies from the 2000s. It's Frailty, starring Bill Paxton, Matthew McConaughey, and Powers Booth. I love this film, so I have to make an appearance on Dylan's Horror Show for that. And then Monday night, after the show over at the Experience, join us for the kickoff of Action Fest 2023. We'll be talking about all 5 Indiana Jones films. It's going to be a great, fun conversation. Rex, Amy, thank you so much for joining us.
Buddy,
Thanks for
have a
having
good
us,
weekend.
Oh, y'all are the best. We'll see you on Monday.